Hello everyone, it's Infinity Gamer here, and in this video I'm going to go through some advanced tactics for close combat for Infinity Code 1. If you haven't already, you're going to need to watch my basics to close combat. That's going to go through a lot of how things resolve, how you get into things, so I'm going to skim over that largely to go through this video, so definitely make sure you familiarise yourself with that. I've popped a link above so that it's easy for you to find if you haven't seen it already, but definitely watch that before you go onto this video. Otherwise, a lot of this is going to go over your head, to be honest. What we're going to do is break this down into two sections. So section 1 is going to be using some kind of medium level infantry unit profiles, and that's going to go through how surprise attack works and camo markers work when we're talking about close combat. I'm going to be using a Delta and a Combined Army Shasvastii Mentor. Then in section 2, I'm going to be going through how martial arts levels work and how you resolve conflict with models that have a close combat value above 20. I'm going to be using a Shasvastii Caliban for that, and also an O12 Hippolyta unit. Now there's a few additional things that will then be worth you looking into after this, which I'm not going to cover, and that's different weapons profiles. So I'm going to cover two major ones here, which are going to be the standard close combat weapon, and then I'm going to go with the DA close combat weapon, which Hippolyta has, but there's a couple of other close combat weapons that you should probably look at yourself, such as monofilament. You'll be able to understand them a lot better having watched this tutorial. Alright. So let's go into section 1, which is how would you fight a camo token if you were looking to attack one? So in this section, you're going to be the Delta, the O12 player, looking to attack the Mentor as a camo token. So what we're going to look at here are the two profiles. So we've got the Shasvastii Mentor at the top and the Delta below. You can see their close combat values are very similar. The Mentor's got 15 and the Delta's got 14. The Delta doesn't have any special close combat attributes here. The combat jump and the parachutist don't really relate. However, the Mentor has prize attack -3 and it has camouflage and mimetism -3. So mimetism won't make any difference because that's not relevant within close combat. So the two things that we're going to look at are surprise attack and camouflage. So in terms of weapons, they both have a CC weapon, which is fairly standard. So highlighted that there. The damage is the pH value of the model, and it's burst 1, so you roll 1 dice, and it has normal ammo. So the pH value for both, so the Delta has a pH of 12, and the Mentor has a pH of 10, which we'll obviously discuss when damage gets resolved. So let's look at the situation here. So the overhead shot, we've got the Delta prepping to go into close combat with the camo token. We've got an Omega watching. So let's get into it. Well, there's a bit of a problem straight away in that you cannot enter silhouette contact with an enemy camouflaged marker. So the obvious problem here is that the Delta can't move into contact with that camouflage marker to initiate a close combat attack. That's obviously hugely problematic. The way around that in this situation would be for a unit like the Omega to discover the camouflage token first, and then once the camouflage token is revealed as the Mentor, then the Delta would be free to move into silhouette contact and initiate a close combat attack. But as things stand right now, no close combat could happen. Another option is to potentially trick the camouflage token into revealing itself. So for example, if the Omega were to activate within 8 inches, which is the zone of control, or within line of fire of the camouflage marker, the camouflage token would then get an ARO. Now they might choose to not reveal because it's actually safer for them to stay camouflaged, or they might choose to reveal depending on what they wanted to do. So you could potentially provoke the model that is in a camouflage state to uncamouflage through a reaction. Once either the Omega or the Delta successfully discovers that camouflage token and reveals the Mentor, then they're allowed to go into a close combat attack. Now in this situation, the Mentor is the reactive player, so the Delta would do the same as what we covered in the basics. It would basically activate the model, would declare the first shot skill as a move and move into silhouette contact with the newly revealed Mentor, and wait for an ARO from the Mentor. Now, even though the Mentor has surprise attack, it cannot be used. We'll go into the rules of surprise attack when it is the Mentor's attack, because that is when it is used. But fundamentally, this works the same as what we saw in the basics video. The Delta would move into silhouette contact with the model, then the ARO would come, and then close combat would resume. Now, they both have the same close combat weapons, so there's actually no difference now, once close combat is resolving, to what we've covered off in the basics video. So there's nothing really to go into in this instance. The tricky thing with camouflage tokens is actually getting into silhouette contact with them and getting into an engaged state, because they have to be discovered first. So that's pretty much the crux of how difficult it is to get into contact with a camouflage token if you are the attacking player. So what we'll do now is we'll reverse the roles to show how camouflage tokens work when they are the attacking player, and also what happens with surprise attack. Alright, so in this example, we are going to be the Shasvastii player with the camo token. So we're going to be looking to attack the Delta and look at the Delta's options and also look at your options as an attacker with a camo token. So first things first, it's a lot easier for you to get into contact, because even though other players cannot come into silhouette contact with you as a camo marker, you can go into silhouette contact with other units as a camo marker. So the first thing we're going to do is activate the Mentor in its camouflage state, and we're going to walk it into silhouette contact with the Delta. Now that's that first short skill being used. The Delta is now eligible for AROs. Their ARO options are fairly limited. You could CC because you know a couple of things, which I'll go into in a small detail. You can dodge, which is obviously a very good option when you don't know really what's coming. And you can delay, which isn't an ARO, but basically when you are AROing a camouflage token, you have a new option that's available to you, which is delay. So with delay, you're basically just delaying your ARO until the second short skill has resolved. It's only eligible against a camouflage token. Now the same were to be happening if the camo marker wasn't coming into base-to-base contact with the Delta. If the camo token doesn't do anything with the second short skill that causes it to reveal, then the Delta would lose its ARO. But if the camo token does something that makes it reveal itself, then that delayed ARO can now be announced. There's a bit of a risk to delaying, but it can pay off if the camo token reveals itself. Now in close combat, we're in a slightly different situation, because as soon as a camo marker goes into silhouette contact with another unit, it automatically reveals itself. So it's a fairly safe thing to do in this circumstance, delay. So in this example, the camouflage token would move into into silhouette contact with the Delta. The Delta would delay, very confident, and then the Mentor would declare its second short skill. And then the Delta would declare its ARO. Surprise attack. Okay, so in this demo, the Mentor is the model with the surprise attack, so we're going to carry on this combat from where we left off in the first section about camouflage. So surprise attack is actually a pretty easy thing for us to cover. It's a simple modifier. So when a camouflage model attacks out from camouflage, so it started its turn in camouflage, it's revealed itself, and now in its second short skill, it's doing an attack of some sort. It gets to apply surprise attack to its enemy. A couple of things with surprise attack. So the modifier that gets applied to the target is on the unit's profile that has surprise attack. So in this case, you can see that the Mentor has surprise attack -3, which means the target of its attack would apply a -3 modifier. The other thing to remember is that that surprise attack modifier only applies to the target of the attack. So for example, if you're split firing, 2 or 3, however many you're split firing to, models will be affected. But otherwise, it's only the target of the attack that gets it. If someone else is shooting you through an ARO or attacking you through an ARO and they're not the target of your attack, they won't be subjected to the -3 modifier for surprise attack. That's pretty much it with surprise attack. It's actually pretty straightforward. So what we'll actually do is roll some dice to kind of show how these modifiers play out, and then we'll get onto some even more complicated stuff. One thing I also need to mention is that when you are AROing against a camo marker as it comes to you, if the camo marker is revealed during that order, you can act as though the camo marker was revealed for the entire order. So in our example, when the Mentor has been moving into contact with the Delta, you act as though the Mentor was revealed for the entire action. So that means that when the Delta does its ARO response, it can do something like a ballistic skill shoot, just like in our initial demo game in my first video, as though the Mentor had been revealed for the entire time. Right, so let's get the fight started. So the first thing the Mentor as a camo token is going to do is spend a regular order and use a first short skill to move into base-to-base contact with the Delta. Now the Delta, knowing that by going into silhouette contact the Mentor is going to have to reveal, will delay. The Mentor then declares with the second short skill a close combat attack. Now by coming into base-to-base contact, the Mentor has revealed itself, so the Delta's delayed ARO can now be announced. He's going to announce a close combat attack as well. Gone through other options there in the first video, but we'll do close combat attack to see how this resolves. So now we apply modifiers. There is no modifier on the Delta, so the Mentor is using straights to hit. The Delta is suffering the -3 modifier from the Mentor's surprise attack. So in terms of close combat attributes, what we have is the Mentor is on straights, which is 15, but the Delta has suffered the -3, so its CC 14 suddenly turns to CC 11. So let's look at resolving this. So we'll roll some dice. The black one represents the Mentor and the purpley orange one represents the Delta. So the Mentor hits on a 1 and is successful, and unfortunately the O12 Delta rolls too high after modifiers. So loses, which means it now has to make a saving throw, which we obviously know how to resolve. So let's move on to the section 2 now that we've covered off some of the basics. Let's look at how martial arts is applied. I'm going to switch up the models a little bit. I'm going to be using a Combined Army Caliban, which is the one on the left, and then an O12 Hippolyta, which is the one on the right. Now, when we look at martial arts, there's a table that gets applied, which you can find in the Code 1 rules. So depending on the level, which is on the far left-hand side, you apply attack modifiers to your model who is attacking, and also you can apply negative modifiers to your opponent and also damage to your weapon. So looking at the profiles that we have here, Hippolyta is the top profile and has martial arts level 4, and the Caliban has martial arts level 3 and also surprise attack and camouflage. So those are two things that we need to bear in mind when we start to resolve these attacks. So let's look at the Caliban. So with this martial arts level 3, it will get +3 to its attack. It will then impose a -3 mod on its opponent and will get +2 damage to its weapon. Hippolyta at martial arts level 4 will apply a +3 mod to her attack, -3 to opponent and +3 damage. So there's actually not a lot in terms of attack modifiers that we need to vary. It's the damage at those two levels that differs. So let's look at a real world example. So we've got the Caliban with its close combat value of 23. We've got Hippolyta with her close combat value of 23. Then we apply martial arts level 4 from Hippolyta. That boosts Hippolyta's 23 by 3 up to 26, and then it deducts 3 from the Caliban's, which takes it down to 20. Then we apply the martial arts level 3 from the Caliban. That deducts Hippolyta's from 26 to 23 by 3, and that adds 3 to the Caliban, which takes it back up to 23. So we're back up to where we started once we've applied those two. Then if the Caliban is doing the attack from camouflage, it imposes surprise attack on Hippolyta, which reduces her attack value by 3, which takes it down to 20. So that's how things would resolve if that was the situation. So that's how martial arts works. Now let's have a look at how you resolve conflict with models that have a higher than 20 CC value, which we would have just seen from those. So prime example is that some models might have a 25 CC, some might have something like a 23. What this effectively does is boost your roll by the amount that is over 20. We're going to resolve an example using Hippolyta and the Caliban, but using their modified results from the previous little section. So Hippolyta is rocking 20 after surprise attack, and the Caliban is on 23. So ignore the fact that this is a black dice. We're going to roll this for Hippolyta. So she rolls an 18. And once we've factored in the fact that she's looking for 20s, this is a success. It would actually be impossible for her to roll a fail if she's looking for 20, but her 18 is successful. It's not a crit or anything like that. But now let's have a look at the Caliban. And so he's looking for 23, which is obviously a guaranteed result on a D20. But let's look what happens when on the O12 dice we roll a 20 for the Caliban. Now how this ends up resolving, once you've done 20 plus 3, that ends up being 23, which is a critical hit. 20 is also a critical hit because it is the maximum that could be rolled. So how this pretty much works is that you add 3 to whatever gets rolled if you're looking for a result that is above 20. So in this sort of example, a 20 is a crit because that ends up resolving at 23. A 19 is a crit because that resolves at 22. An 18 is a crit because that resolves at 21. And a 17 would also be a crit because once you add the +3, that becomes a 20, which would be a crit. In most other circumstances, so for example, if they rolled a 5, you would just add the 3, and that gives you a better chance of beating your opponent. So it is great to go into any situation with a higher than 20 because it gives a boost to your own roll. And also, if you're rolling quite high, it actually increases your chance of a critical hit. So that's definitely one of the more complex elements. Once you get your head around it though, it kind of works. And that's pretty much it. So what have we gone through in this video? We have covered off attacking a camouflage token, attacking with a camouflage token. We've looked at surprise attack. We've looked at martial arts attributes, and we've looked at how attacks and close combat resolve with values over 20. If you've got any questions, please throw them in the comments below. If I've gotten anything wrong, chances are one of the great people who subscribe to this channel who know a lot more than me would have corrected me. So read the comments for anything that may have gotten wrong here. If you want to follow me on Instagram, feel free to do so. I'm at @the_InfinityGamer. I do behind the scenes shots of editing videos, playing games, and models in the works. I've got some pretty interesting videos coming up soon, so definitely subscribe, stay tuned, and look forward to seeing you again in one of my future videos.